Now, the state of Lil Uzi Vert's career. I wanted to have a little conversation about the state of Uzi's career. After all, man, it's been a while since I talked about him, and I do have a thing or two to say about this whole topic. With that being said, let's talk about it. Now, Lil Uzi Vert, the baddest bitch in the rap game. Pause. Like I said, man, it's definitely been a little while since I spoke about the boy Uzi. It only makes sense though because he hasn't dropped a solo project in over 2 years at this point, which is kind of crazy. Eternal Take was of course Uzi's last solo drop. That dropped back in March 2020, and then in November 2020, the Pluto X Baby Pluto collab project with the man Future, of course, dropped. Aside from that, there really hasn't been a lot of activity from Uzi as far as the music. Uzi in the last 2 years has actually been a featured artist more than he's dropped his own records, so he's been extremely generous with features, but hasn't been feeding his own fans all that much. These last 2 years for Uzi has almost been like a replay of the Eternal Take delay, only this time we gotta call it the Eternal Pink Tape delay. If you guys don't know, the Pink Tape is Uzi's forthcoming album. It was announced back in December 2020. It was actually supposed to drop before Halloween 2021 as stated by Uzi himself, but that was obviously capped. So the project till this day, okay, still hasn't dropped. Uzi fans have been growing impatient because they want that new, and I don't blame them. I think the lack of music from Uzi in the last 2 years has most definitely had an effect on his fan base. As far as I can see, they're not as engaged as they once used to be. I want to say that that's a very natural response because he hasn't been that active. Naturally, a lot of fans do end up losing interest when their fave isn't feeding them constantly. Personally, I think that's something that's very emphasized in this current time that we're living in due to our attention spans being so bad. Also, Uzi is, yes, very much established in the genre of rap, but there's always new music dropping 24/7. There's always another upcoming rapper who's probably influenced by Uzi himself dropping the same type of music Uzi's currently holding on to. So fans do lose interest. That happens to the best of the best. You can't really escape that. That being the case, I think for Uzi, the fact that he does hold a lot of power in his particular lane, that's something that makes him beyond good. So I don't think he has anything to worry about in that sense. The biggest obstacle I believe a guy like Uzi is currently up against is how is he gonna at this point in his career set himself apart from the old him. So really, progression is the word here. Comparing Uzi to some of his peers that came up with him, like for example 21 Savage, who's honestly one of the most improved rappers in the last couple years. A part of me feels like it's unfair to compare 21 Savage to Uzi because 21 at this point, man, I feel like is just on another level. And I do think 21 is really just a different breed as far as the level of, progression we've seen from him. But the contrast between 21 Savage and Uzi, who started off in the, same place, makes it very clear what's really possible if you play your cards right. Now at this point, man, Uzi's been around for a solid 6 years. He of course blew up back in 2016, has been fairly hot since then despite some of the lows he's had. He's been at the forefront of the new generation scene, has always been viewed as and is one of the head honchos of the new generation. He's dropped a lot of solid projects, a lot of good music, has really earned his position and earned his stripes, that's for sure. I've never really been the biggest Uzi fan out there, but one thing I can say is that he hasn't put in the work to get to the position he's currently at. The thing about Uzi too is in the midst of that process, he did face a lot of pushback from certain old heads in hip-hop.
Y'all get to like 27, 28, and y'all niggas get to struggling, and y'all be trying to come back and find that sound.
I ain't gonna struggle, bro.
All right, we're gonna see.
So Uzi did take a lot of jabs for the rappers who came up after him. He wasn't the only one getting this treatment though. Kodak and Yachty were as well. In the end, just like Kodak Black and Yachty, Uzi did end up prevailing because he's still till this day here. There's been a lot of conversations about the next step for Uzi. Where exactly is he headed musically? That's a question a lot of people have been asking as of recently. Now recently, a new snippet of some Uzi music surfaced on the internet and a lot of his fans weren't feeling it. I'm not gonna play the snippet in this video because copyright, but let's just say that the snippet wasn't sounding too good. A lot of fans were talking about how they wanted the old Uzi back and that this new Uzi is garbage. Now keep in mind, a lot of these comments came from actual Uzi fans, like loyal fans. Uzi ended up seeing the negative reception to the song and decided to respond to it on Twitter. This is what he said. First, he put up this tweet saying, "They just trying to hear the real deal and I only let them hear the fake. I'm stepping bad on this album and y'all ain't hear nothing. Maybe a little, but nothing." One of his fans then tweeted this at him saying, "It's been 2 years since your last album, Uzi. Aren't you scared people gonna say you fell off?" Uzi responded saying, "Hell no, I'm not scared. I got that shit on God and I don't even be saying on God. Nothing to talk about." He then put up this last tweet saying, "Trust me, you'll be back. They always come back." So here Uzi is essentially responding to comments about him falling off. Very unusual for an artist at this level. Most artists at this level don't really be responding to comments like these for obvious reasons. They don't want to feed into the negativity, which is understandable. Here's the thing, man. I actually don't believe Uzi when he says that he's not scared. Any artist who hasn't dropped a solo project for 2 years better have some fear towards the outcome when they do eventually drop. With the way things are looking in the music industry right now, a lot of times even taking a 6-month hiatus could be a huge risk. That's why a lot of rappers are out here pushing out material like their career depends on it, because their career actually depends on it. For a guy like Uzi who's at this level, the last thing I think he has to worry about is becoming a has-been. Once you make it to a certain level, completely falling off, I mean, that's close to impossible unless you fumble the bag like crazy. For Uzi, however, when this next album drops, I see 2 possible outcomes. Outcome number 1, the Pink Tape drops, it becomes a huge success, and Uzi again, okay, levels up in the industry like he did when Eternal Take dropped. Outcome number 2, the Pink Tape drops, but it's unfortunately average. So instead of adding more to his wave, it just keeps him afloat until that next drop. Realistically speaking, if I had to pick one of those outcomes, I'm leaning more towards the second one for a couple reasons. Number 1, Uzi hasn't dropped a solo body of work in over 2 years, man. So he's lost a lot of momentum during his time, and momentum is the name of the game right now more than ever. Also, the Pink Tape doesn't have a fraction of the hype Eternal Take had. I mean, it's highly anticipated within the Uzi community, but outside of that, the anticipation hasn't really shaken up the genre like EA did. And speaking of that, by the way, I don't think comparing Eternal Take to the Pink Tape is fair, because the hype Eternal Take had was very unusual. It's not something you can really replicate over again. The point I'm trying to make is, if you take a look at the contrast between where Uzi was back then status-wise and you compare it to the current version of him, the gap that's been left since that last solo drop is beyond noticeable. So personally, I think Uzi should be scared, because this next drop, I believe, is going to decide the trajectory of his career for the next 3 years. Nothing is set in stone, and I could be wrong, but let's acknowledge the fact that every rapper who was once extremely poppin' like Uzi was, does at some point start to go cold with time. At this point, I think it's pretty safe to say that Uzi has gone cold, and whether or not he starts heating up leading up to this forthcoming album, only time will tell. But yeah, the state of Uzi Vert's career. Any thoughts on this conversation? What do you guys think about Uzi in 2022? Are you still checking for his music? Do you think he fell off like some people are saying? Curious to hear what you have to say, so yeah, definitely let me know in the comment section below. Like this video, like this video, like this video. Let's have a discussion about this.